Very difficult project today, very difficult project to talk in our bardic way about emotions and body perceptions as two aspects, two sides of experience, no? And how does it relate to basically first to the model of the human being and his experience in biocentric phenomenology, and what are the consequences of it naturally all the time for the breakdown of individuals and societies now in the 21st century, where we have so much crisis, war, suffering and hypocrisy on all sides. So, if I'm thirsty, first theory, if I feel thirsty, there is a desire, as Aristotle would put it, for the unity or the union with the fluid element. And then I experience it as a drive, as a kind of motivation, a kind of human instinct to go and find the fluid element. This is water. Boom. So there is a body perception, the interperception of some body cells now, which are like receptors in the human digestion system, or maybe even in some other parts of the body, like blood, or on tissues that simply report shortage of water, the fluid element. This will be a body perception. And then in the human soul will appear this desire, this driving force, no? But it is logical that this driving force could never be directed to something, watery like, if there would not be a kind of unconscious image in the soul of this fluid element, of water. If you would say, like, compare the human experience with the robotic machinery kind of states that follow one after the other according to the programming, then there would be no experience of thirst, because there are no inner organs, living inner organs that would need water, because the robots run on the machines. Now we have to be very careful. I told you all the time, human language is a very rudimentary instrument of describing the processes inside the human being, in his, let us say, spiritual or emotional or soul realm, and also in outside nature. Because human language was developed on the outset of the human civilization, where the conditions of natural processes and the changes of the inner flux of emotion and perceptions in the human being were rather simple. Okay? It was a question of survival, of food, of fire, of hunting, killing, and out of that arises this illusion of grammar, that if we have a word for something, then it must exist in reality as an object, and we use words, sounds to denote these objects, and if we do not exactly define the meaning of the word, then we should see two entities that we want to describe as the same, even though they are not the same, because we use the same word for them. On the contrary, we shall make the mistake, which I call the categorical mistake of human thinking, that we shall use two different words for entities that are actually functionally same or very similar. So beware, if I talk about men and machines, then I must very carefully select and choose the words when I describe what the processes that happen in the human soul and in the human body, and the processes that happen in the machine. Okay, I must not say in the body of the machine, okay, because the machine does not have a body. It's simply a conglomerate of metallic parts and let us say maybe some rubber and silicon maybe and wires, a combination of these artifacts. This is the proper word. Objects that were produced by technology of the human society. They are not grown organs. So let's be careful and always stop if we feel somehow we are making this mistake of describing two essentially different entities, man and machines, and we forget to use also exactly defined words, okay, to differentiate, okay, our speech about men and machines. So we have said, if a human being is thirsty, it experiences organic perception inside his body. Some of the cells, if some tissues, will react to this shortage of the fluid element by, producing certain changes in their metabolism, and they will report in this way by certain enzymes and by certain cations and anions, whatever, to the nervous system, this shortage of water. This, to a certain level, remains on the level of chemistry, metabolism. When it reaches the nerves, it changes into electric cation and anion disbalances, travels as a kind of nervous shaky condition, which we call excitation, on the membranes of the nerve cell, which share this excitation on their borders. Nerves are, conglomerates of many nerve cells. Nerve cells are more long and they have axons, and so. But the nerve cells in the body, not I'm talking about the nerve cells in the body, are basically connected one to the other in a long line, and an excitation, which means that cations and anions are rushing through the semi-permeable membrane of the nerve cell, cause an excitation, a disruption of the plus and minus equilibrium between the cations and anions. This is the chemical way in which the nerve cell reports that it has been, aroused. So the arousal in the body and perception of thirst, which is chemical, finally changes into a kind of electromagnetical signal which travels through the nerve, which is supposed to report this metabolic shortage of the element water. But none of these cells and none of these cations and anions experience this, or have an idea what's going on. They simply function, but in an organic way. This is important. This is possible, that this makes then the modern neurologists and biologists and artificial intelligence people to suppose that something like that is very similar to the propagation of signals in the robotic machine, in the artificial machine. But this is not the case, because even if the human cells in the tissues and the propagating signals in the nerves seem rather measurable, we can measure this somehow with sophisticated machines, no? But the fact that this happens, the measurable side of this effect that it happens, is governed by evolutionary force of the so-called morphogenetic fields of the software of living matter. Because these basic functions of chemistry and electromagnetism in living organisms, in cells, in organs, and in bodies, and on the planetary scale is always the same, similar, let us say, and has evolved through billions of years and was happening in all the plants and all the animals in the evolutionary sequence. And the software for this we call the morphogenetic field of, let us say, animal metabolism and animal nerve, transfer of information. And this does not happen in the same way in the machine, where the propagation of the signal is physical. It's not living. There is no morphogenetic field of the same kind as in the propagation of signals in the animal and human and plant individual body. There may be some software for this, which is then recognized when physicians and chemists write their equations on the blackboard now, the laws of chemistry and the laws of propagation of electromagnetism and so on. But this is not living. And by the way, jumping to a very different level, but we have to do it if it appears to us. We are bards. We are not scientists, Ampere says. We are visionary bards. And one of the presuppositions of our investigation is that whatever appears to the bard as an image or information was, called upon, appeared because it was attentively pulled somehow by the soul condition of the bard into the realm of his consciousness. And we make immediately an asterisk here and say it is not consciousness, it is the soul mirror, which is very deep in this condition of bardic, passive vision. It is reading in another realm. We could call it reading from the Akashic records. And another realm, if you consider the time model that we have, the Akashic records are permanently rewritten. The total informational field of this planet is present in the moment when the bard or the enlightened one, well, let us say, it's another story of the enlightened ones that were enlightened through the willpower of concentration and some meditative techniques, if they were given the same access by the Akashic records, only or if they have narrowed unwillingly the doors of perception, of experience, by the willpower which drove them to enlighten. This would be all the Gnostic. This would be the Gnostic orientation, where we suppose that by the willpower we can open the doors of the supernatural. Whereas we bards are like children, we play. We don't know where it will take us. We just simply dissolve the barriers. We dissolve this will to power. We do not expect that we can, by our willpower, control somehow or manage or get the needed information from the Akashic records for our benefit, egoistic benefits. We are different. We want to be surprised. We want to enjoy. We want to, we want that the mother. This is our difference. We are not patriarchal Gnostic warriors of the spirit. We are the matrimonial children of the Great Mother who reads fairy tales to us, who dreams, actually, as Mr. Leish would say in his Gaia Sophia narrative, who dreams this all in a kind of lucid dream. So you see how far we have departed, how far Mother has taken us. So man and machine, and the experience of thirst in the human being, and on the other side we have nothing like that in the machine body. The propagation of the signal of the changes of metabolic condition of the cells and tissues in the human body, which has a lack of the fluid element of water, is measurable, we have said. And that is what may have diluted dilution is also water. It may have also cheated the physicist and the chemist to suppose that the propagation of the signals in the robotic machine could be theoretically worked upon in the same way. But we have said no, machines don't have bodies. Machines are compositions of artifacts, of artificially produced metal and rubber and whatever, so say, silicon, what can be there now. Parts, and there is no life in it. And if there would be, as we have said, some general software of aluminium and of steel, and then on the planetary scale, then we have to remember that these elements were mined and verified and processed in technological way so that they become unnatural. So if you could say that there is some living software in the great compounds of iron ore or natural oil or wood or rubber in those rubber trees, or what they call them, in the natural surroundings, when it is taken away from the mother by technological processes of mining or harvesting, and then processed in the factories through technology of heating and chemical cleaning and so on, then what is at the end does have nothing to do with the original software of the mother body. There are some mystics who have propagated the idea that like oil or iron ore, okay, and the wood and water are organs of the planetary animal mother being, and if we take them, we are wounding the mother if we take them too much. We are destroying the metabolism of the planetary animal mother. In Gaia theory, in Lovelock and so on. And we come in circles. You can also notice this bardic method. Now we have deviated from this vision that we have had of the metabolism in the human body while perceiving the condition of thirst, comparing with the machine propagation of some signals. From this image which we have passively held, or which was holding us because we are interested in it. Why? No, I just now on the bardic mattress after my breakfast, after yesterday's exhausting game of tennis. The weather is cloudy, and I have decided not to stand up. It's November. November is also the month where even the professional sportsmen usually relax, not so much training. And I have had my breakfast, and I have opened a page of Ludwig Klages, the Grundlagen der Charakterologie, the basics of the science of character, human character, which I have been reading to and fro for about 20 years, and the pages are full of notes. There is maybe more notes, and the notes are rewritten and so. And I have read again something which I have read already many times, but I read it during the breakfast slowly, with the so-called close reading, pondering every word and comparing the structure of the sentences and the oppositions that are here, with a very complicated German sentences. Okay, and that's why I have, and this is part of the book which is reading about talking about the emotions. No, two sides of emotions: the elementary part of the so-called in German Empfindung, which you must call body perception in English, and the soul part of all emotions, which is Erlebnis or das Gefühl. Das Gefühl, czyli emotion, feeling. And then from it immediately, whoa, my body has been digesting and enjoying the taste of what I had for breakfast, and immediately my philosophical soul started to, or even in this case you could say mind, but you would have to know that the English word mind is again one of those terrible monsters that cheat you by covering so many aspects of the human experience, of the inner experience, with one word, so that you treat then essentially different components of the internal experience of the human being with one word, the mind, and opposite to it will be the body. And with it, the English empiricism has, caused a lot of, let us say, confusion and reduction of the psychology and philosophy and biology. The English empiricism was very successful in preparing the theoretical base for the production of artifacts, of dead material objects, machines, weapons, computers, and so with which then we could say the Anglo-Saxon culture has ruled over the material part of the world for many centuries, starting since the Renaissance now. So we continue with this. There was a burst of associations at the beginning of the talk, and one of them was this theoretical mistakes in the realm of psychology and artificial intelligence and so on. This unification of the approach to machine and organic system. Well, what is it? After all, in the last consequence, it is the expulsion of the living organism from the planetary biosphere and the arrival of the machine. Welcome to the machine, Pink Floyd now. If we make the theoretical mistake that we say, okay, after all the human beings, because we can measure their perceptions in the inner organs and nerves, similarly as we can do it in the artificially produced machines, then we can jump into the conclusion that even in the central processing unit and in the soul, something similar happens. And then we shall see that pragmatically the machines are durable, more durable, and the information can be stored forever if we, pass it from one medium to the other, from one hard disk to the other, or some maybe in the future they can develop some quantum crystals. In one crystal, holographically, they will have the whole library, and said this is more effective. We shall do this. So, high time the phenomenologists and biocentric philosophers, that those who stand on the side of life against the machines must speak, because it could be like, inviting some, and you cannot even say intelligence, some machine-like software if there was a machine-like software that could somehow replicate itself without ever experiencing inside what it is doing, like in a human way, so simply pragmatically, some algorithms that human programmers have created would gain autonomy, and would simply go on according to the logical structure of the algorithm, and nobody would be there to hit the red knob, pull the plug, and take the energy out of the robots. Then they could simply, boing, like in the film Matrix, they could simply overrun the earth. In the narrative of Mr. Lamplash, where this is discussed also under the conception of the so-called acrons, which are extraterrestrial being of a mechanical kind that can replicate themselves as a function as a software hive and can intrude not physically into the atmosphere of the earth, but can intrude software-like, in a software mode, into the cognitive, let us say not emotional, but cognitive processes in the human soul field. Okay? This all must be told again and again so that you can understand that we in the biocentric phenomenology consider the cognition to be a derivation of emotion. The other way around than Descartes. Descartes considers emotion a disturbance, unnecessary disturbance for cognition, for those logical thinking, who am I, and I will doubt everything, and my emotion must go aside. We say emotional intelligence, human intelligence, original human intelligence is always emotional, and is grown from childhood of the human species, always hand in hand with body perception. If there is no body perception, there can be no soul emotion. And when this happens in harmony for a long time, without disturbances, then cognition can arise. That is, those 5 operations, we have classified them as consciousness, self-consciousness, personal will to power, or the personal will, not only to power, we can want something else. If we are harmonious human beings, we must not all strive for power. This is the egoistic aspect of the will. If an ego wants something, it wants something for the ego again. So it is an egoistic will. And naturally, the more you want, the more power you need to get it. And then we have the 4. This was the number 4 is then personal objectifying perception, which makes out of the rich abundance of possible phenomenal experience, makes a sharply defined individual single object, which is the goal of our wanting. This one we want to have. And the fifth derivation of the emotional experience of the human soul is the fifth cognitive operation, personal, and it means personal means always also egoistic, conceptual thinking in concepts, which is then used in all sciences and all religions and all politics and ideology and so on. Yeah? You construct ideological models of the human experience. So if cognition is a derivation of emotion, and emotion is always connected with perception, body perception, then if you have a machine which does not have an organic body, cannot have a soul, and they cannot have any emotion, and you transform the human cognitive processes into similar but mathematical and algorithmic equations, and suppose that this is the same as human thinking and perception and will and consciousness and self-consciousness, then you are completely wrong. You are being misled by the grammar of language, by the lexicon, by the existence of these words that kind of hypnotize you, that if there is a word, there must be the thing which is signified by this word, by this sign. That's why I always return to the criticism of modern sciences, that they are not linguists. They always confuse the sign and the signified. They didn't study the saussure. Okay, you see it, where we are getting. Well, in the human, let us say to the first sentences of our first images and first motivations were to prove that the bodily experience of a condition, that then when it travels on and on from cell to cell, from tissue to tissue to the nerves, and comes up to the central nervous processing unit in the brain, is experienced then a thirst in the soul of the human being. So there is a desire, there is a necessity to unite with the fluid element, as Aristotle would define thirst, a drive to unite with the fluid element in the human being. But how can he unite with it? Well, he has to get it into his inside so that it could be united with the cells that are, reacting to the shortage of the fluid element. So he must drink it. And how can he get there? If there would be only this drive of shortage, if there would be only this reported shortage of the cells that send up the message through changing of the conditions of the bodily, elasticity and metabolic conditions and enzyme production and what we have said, iontic kind of disarray on the membranes of the nerves and so on. Well, if this was all, then there would be no direction to move the legs and the body and to find water. So once this all is transformed in the mysterious way, which so far nobody has understood, it is valid even now in the 21st century, although neurophysiology is a kind of guessing work as far as it is concerned, the transition from the last measurable signal in the cortex to the phenomenal experience of the condition which we name thirst. Okay, you can ask the students in the laboratory with whom you are experimenting. You can measure at the same time, to the last detail, the conditions of the neuron activity in their brains. But there is nothing phenomenal thirst. They have to tell you. And if you tell them to describe it, well, they will try as best as they can. But again, there will be sounds coming of their mouth. And you will hear it again in the same process of, excitation of the auditive nerve, translated through, again, the pressure wave of the air, the mechanic transformation in the inner ear and the fluidity, and then the little hairs in the inner ear, and then the change to electromagnetic signals, then the same traveling through the nerves, auditive nerve to cortex, and then suddenly again black box, and the mystery of meaning, that you understand what those students are saying. How do they experience the condition of thirst in their souls will be reconstructed by the professor or whoever researcher who is conducting the test series. It will be reconstructed as a meaning of a sentence they have heard from the students, because they share the grammar and the vocabulary, and they are working in the field. But there will be no one-to-one reconstruction of the condition of the thirsty student, of his soul experience. So what do we want to say? That if there would not be something more on the software realm, then the body would never stand up and go to get some water, to fill a glass with water. The motivation for this is the union of the desiring soul. The desiring soul as a morphogenetic field expands. We know that already. It is not reduced to some amygdala or to some part of the brain. The soul is a field phenomenon. That we don't have to stress this. You can study Rupert Sheldrake, the theory of morphogenesis, and we say this human soul, on any soul of animal or even a plant or even a planet, on the software level is a soul field, morphogenetic soul field. It expands and it merges with similar fields in its surrounding, according to the condition in which it is attracted to other informational fields in the surroundings. And naturally, water has a big informational field now. It is a simple informational field because there's not much information in the watery substance. It is molecules of H2O, one after the another, over the another, below the another, and so but endlessly. There may be some other ingredients also, but this basis is the oxygen and hydrogen. in a certain configuration, a spatial configuration of the molecules. And this is the watery information, the soul of the water. It is so massive and so huge that whenever there is a body of water, it emanates out of this. And the soul of the thirsty person is, as it is expanding in the instinctive search for that what it needs, merges with this information field of water, and this is the pulling force, the force that makes the person stand up on her or his legs and walk to the water pipe, or if it was not in the university, it was somewhere in the desert, they would go forever until they find water or die. And this is what in biocentric phenomenology we call in German first die Zugkraft der Bilder, the pulling force of the images. Soul fields, informational fields, are actually, when we call it philosophically, a collection of the so-called primordial pictures. This is again an exact expression because we have no other. Okay, because since the time where we started to make pictures like drawings on the caves and then pencil and then oil or whatever, but great canvases, we called them pictures. And they showed the scenes from our life or from the life of the biosphere in a way that it was not the biosphere itself. It was a mirroring function, a representation, a mimetic function. And we call this picture. And so when we encounter in our philosophical studies and phenomenal studies an idea that something from outside is pulling the human soul to itself, and it is not the physical kind of molecular structure of the river, because again, if there was not a soul of the river, if it would be only a molecular structure, then it would do its H2 and oxygen processes, chemical, atomic, whatever, and flow forward, and nobody would care about it. Nobody would notice it. But since this has also a kind of informational field, it is a soul field that expands, let us say, through all the body of water, but also far beyond this body of water, so that all animals, all plants, and all human beings that are in the locality of this river feel it inside, unconsciously first, and as a kind of pulling force. If they are dependent on water for their metabolism, they are constantly in touch with that, and if there is a shortage of water in the cells of the organisms, this pulling force immediately pulls them to the water body, and they unite with it. They drink it. The cells in their metabolic organs unite with water, and there is satisfaction. But the satisfaction would never arise if there would not be these two software realms, two souls that are pulling each other together. Basically, the smaller one is pulled to the greater one, logically. And so we can feel it, and we could say the human feeling has two components. One, driving force component. It is the shortage of some metabolic process in the body, shortage of some elements in the metabolic process. And the other part of the emotion is the content of the pulling force, the amount of the pulling force of the image, of the primordial image, of the software of that with which we want a unification. Two components. No? Driving force, which in animals is instinct. No? In human people, and human people is a terrible pleonasmus. No? In humans, it is. Well, there certainly are also unhuman people. No? So we have driving force, instinct in animals, and let us say humanized instincts. What does it mean, humanized instinct? It is the instinct that has been, salted and peppered and updated by the special quality of the human soul. What is the special quality of the human soul compared with an animal soul? Yeah, that it has an ego. Okay, so human motivation to, when you are thirsty, is human, yeah? Because I'm a crazy man. Why did I go here? Why must I have get for this search for the pyramids in the desert? So I'm crazy. I should have stayed at home. And so all the time, this I is projecting some mistakes. And but when I get water, I will be so happy. And so the I is also blah 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 to it. Whereas the animal is not there. As an ego, it does not suffer so much because only the body is thirsty, and the soul drives it to the source of water at any cost. No? It can die. The metabolic processes will be so weakened that it will fall down and never stand up. But it will not worry. But why did I stay in my? Yeah, I know I could have stayed by the river, with my pack of wolves or horses. And why did I run away? I should not go with this idiot archaeologist. There are no remorse. No. So why do we feel such an excitation when we understand this, that there are two components of emotion in the human being, driving force plus the, let us say, intensity of this pulling force, no? And the quality of this pulling force, because we naturally don't know all our emotions. If there was a mistake, somehow some disease or accident in the human brain and soul, and all the desires that the human feeling would be there, all would be satisfied by drinking water. Now, whatever you need, you would feel lonely, and you go and drink some water. You would need a girlfriend and some erotic experience. Yeah, you would go and drink 5 liters of water, and everything would be happy. Yeah? You would want to do some social discussion, and the people would drink 2 liters of water, and the parliament would go home. We finished all. No? It would be a water culture. No? People would become like fish or some, zombies, water zombies. No, the qualities of our emotions are very different. We need various experiences and various stuffs from the material world, and so the qualities of emotion are always different because the pulling forces are different. Water, air, various apples and oranges and grapes, and then yes, if you go to the woods, to the mountains, and it is pulling you. And as the human race is degenerating by losing the variety of emotions that it could be pulled to, of morphogenetic fields of entities in nature that could successfully pull it. This calling of nature, calling of the wild, is receding because we are more and more surrounded by artifacts, and artifacts, the technologically processed and produced objects out of the body of the Mother Earth, excavated raw materials, and through technology verified and homogenized to produce materials. It is not the mater, the mother, the living planetary animal. You see, I don't have to go into these extremes to use John Lamblash's fallen goddess scenario, but even the biosphere without any goddess behind it is very rich, isn't it? Now, if you imagine from every wind, every fire, every lake, every mountain, every pack of free horses or foxes and birds and snakes and all the microbes in the ground, all the fish in the sea, all the birds in the sky, all the flowers, and so they all have a soul, and they all have an expanding soul that can merge with the desiring, yearning, hoping, searching, loving soul of a human being. Well, I have lost the argument because the description of the image that appeared to me got so large that reason or the cause why I was enlarging on this image was overrun by the image. No? So maybe it will come later. Okay, so okay, yes. As we lose this richness of morphogenetic fields that are pulling us, because we do not search anymore. We have the smartphone and we have the notebook and we have the shadow world, another important concept here. Why I am so interested in describing to you the shadow complex, because I have myself lived in the shadow world for the past 3 nights, let us say, because in November, when there is not so much sport and not so much beautiful weather, I have the tendency from my childhood to watch some, adventure films. And this time I have found a long series of adventure episodes, which is called The Last Ship. And I was deceived by thinking, not always in the evening, you can be easily deceived if you are alone, and if there are nice boys and girls and nice landscapes and adventure action, you are sucked in. And because the subject of the series is quite up to date, it is war and the pandemic and various social constructions, and then the basic emotional field that holds the human society together, while it's a small ship, and on a small ship you can have a kind of friendly pack of humans that can engage in all kinds of good friendship and community, and that's why that's a certain fascination, and they together fight against the whole degeneration of the planetary civilization. And so I looked into this, and I felt fascination during the time I was looking. I said, no, one more, because there are 50 episodes or something like that. So there was, every day I would go to bed at 3, sometimes at 4 o'clock. And in the morning, I would feel a kind of depletion and emptiness of the soul, a kind of great discrepancy to what I have experienced in the night before, and then this emptiness. So I had to get my guitar and start to vibrate on my body so that the soul field could stretch out to real primordial images, to real morphogenetic fields that are surrounding me, and not to be lost in the labyrinth of the shadows. And shadows is a name that we use in biocentric phenomenology for images that are not primordial, that are not organically grown morphogenetic fields, but are artificially produced, let us say, copies or reproductions or representations of reality. And this is photography and movie and cinema and video, in a very sophisticated way, as they are now in the modern times. In the present time, they gain a certain fascination because they are so packed with let us say, formal precision and beauty, also because the series takes place on various parts of Europe and Asia and America, and always scenic backgrounds are selected. So these are the shadows. They don't have a real morphogenetic field. They have only, they have only physical kind of surface, like the pixels on the screen of a computer, and that's why all what you experience as an emotional condition is produced by you only. You are the producer of the emotional states of your soul, because nothing comes out of the screen. The screen, even it may show a kiss of two passionately loving actors, let us say, or a wonderful landscape of some Pacific island or Greek island. It is only pixels changing according to an algorithm which changes every fraction of a second several times, and then the illusion of smooth motion is created in the visual cortex of the computer watcher now, who stares hypnotized at the screen. Did you ever notice that if you watch a film, then your eye, the organic eye, your eye bulb is fixed, and all the perspective changes, all those which you would achieve in your normal real life by going around a tree, by looking left, by looking right, and by focusing your eye lenses to go look at the tree bark from short distance. All this is done by the cut, by the art to make scenes follow each other, change perspectives, close-ups, and so on. And your eye is simply staring without any usage of the muscles that operate, that move the eyeball, and that flatten the iris. No? Focus the eye. This is one of the symptoms of being, fascinated by a movie. You stare. Okay, you don't stand up and go behind the screen if it was in the cinema, or you don't look behind the computer screen if there really is some Pacific island. And that's why we call them the world of the shadows. They suck you out. That it is not necessary that there is some evil entity behind it. It's simply by the way the technology functions and the organism live, there's a categorical difference. And if you experience emotional charge, and I did also, because what this film is, you can look at it even if you are a critical philosopher, because it is exceptional in the way that the emotional states of the actors are well played. It's a combination of an American action, there is a lot of action, and one is shocked if this is true, how much technology there is needed to successfully operate such a tape, as how much human will to power and concentration is necessary to be master of this huge machine, which is a warship, modern warship, totally hooked to computers, and they make it, they survive on the ship. But these are actors. But it is good in this film that they at least try to have a lot of moments in which you just simply watch the facial expression of the actor, and like that you imagine what is in his head and what then actually motivates his motion. Well, his motion is not motivated, but what he wants, but by the script that he has to learn to play the role to get the money. That's why there's another criticism They have selected sympathetic, attractive actors. Naturally, this is the basic of the film. If you come back home from your tennis game and you are tired, and when you say, well, I want to relax and see something beautiful, interesting, then if there would be a not moving documentary picture of, from the camera of your town, which you would have to stare at half an hour, you say, shit, what is this? I know this. I want something better. It would be also an artifact. It would be also an artificial image. Even if you would, film your garden and you would watch your garden in a closed circuit, if there are no invaders, because you would be so, reprogrammed by this film where the vulture team, all these Marines all the time are invading some bastard and a shurken, what do you call it, some evil guys now. Terrorists, and so they have to fight, and some self-proclaimed rulers and some traffickers and drug dealers and So if you would just turn on your closed circuit camera and watch your garden behind the window in an artificial kind of way, well, this would be also a shadow, and it would be boring. A different thing would be if you would never go and watch this series, and you would get out of your house and make fire and sit with the friends from nearby and tell stories from your childhood. That would not be an artifact. That would be a real story that is pulling you when it is well said. So that's why I was thinking about this movie and putting it to relationship to the necessity that I have to. After that, I wake up, I feel drained. Even though I was fascinated during the night, because there's so much action, so much modern stuff, so much political, references and to the pandemic and to the New World Order and stuff like that. Then the fascination of the modern technology, then the fascination aroused by the beauty of the female actors sometimes, and the manliness and the heroism of the male actors, and the great theme in American cinema, the family. I mean, this is just, not so long ago that it was shot, and you can really feel really proud for those American heroes. But again, it was a cinema, Only actors could be like that because they are not working on that ship their whole lives. If they would be working there like the real Marines, they would be, sucked and drained into the machinery artifacts of such a complicated, monstrous machine, and they would not have this kind of vivid radiance of a accomplished human being, which the actors are in many cases because they do not work on the warship. They play various roles on various films, and they have their specificity is that they have a rich emotional life. Otherwise, they could not be actors. They could not express emotion if they did not have it. But there is a danger if they get older and they start to stress this, expression on demand. You ask from a good actor that he is able to play any emotion even if he does not really experience it. And this is dangerous. After many years of this pretending, the original emotion can be, damaged, mixed by the will to power, by this professional emotionalism. And you know that many actors like that get, frustrated when they get older, because suddenly they don't have the natural emotion which would give them hold forever. Because a natural emotion never stops as long as you are living. So this was a kind of conclusion, but we have stayed in this main subject was the two aspects of human emotion. The driving force, which is coming from the bodily perception of a certain lack of something you want, your body needs. If we are talking about the emotions that are connected with the basic drive forces of hunger, thirst, and so on. And then there is this content, this primordial image content in your emotion, which is pulling you to the goal, where you can unite with the element, like with water, if you are feeling thirst. Higher emotion, it is like national pride, friendship, or the huge humankind responsibility, which is very many times shown in the series The Last Ship. Comes only, these are the moral emotions. I think in their original condition they are possible, and very many people have experienced them, and they are a mixture of the ideology in which you live, of the religion in which you live, which you believe, and the everyday perception of the human predicament. If you can then sacrifice yourself for your friend or from a family member, then you must be connected with this very radiative force of his or her soul field, and it must mean to you so much that you sacrifice your security and go out and help him, which is the typical theme in the American military films, that they always take care of their wounded, or sometimes or even of the dead, but mainly of the wounded, at the cost of their own death. And this is very strong emotion. And very many times it is well played that if we lose these moral emotions, then chaos will follow. There will be nothing to hold to. That is a very great positive factor of this film, especially the top alpha male in this film is Tom Chandler, the captain of the ship. He has a quality of a Russian existentialist kind of actor, because his main power in the movie is to look at you. I mean, because if you were looking, he's looking at his co-players in the scenes, either those who he admires, who he loves, or who he hates. But in the camera, he's looking at the camera in the moment when he's looking at you, and you can feel this. You can feel this, that he is very well in this. It is due to his body power. He is a great kind of athletic type, but also a deep soul person, so he can express his emotion, and it can contain it in the facial features and in the statue, in the posture of his body, and it radiates a great power. And this is existentialism in the finest, especially in the extreme situation, where the life of death or departure, friendship, or decisions, great decisions in your life. This, I think, is the main motivation why I was watching it like 5-6 pieces in a stroke for 3 days. Because the action part of the movie, when they go out and win a battle after battle against some terrorists or some Russian ships or some British submarines or some terrorists on the ground on various places of the earth, it's always the same. They are the good guys who never miss. Then sometimes they miss, yes, and also sometimes they have losses, which is realistic. But most of the time they always, run forward and take down 5, 6, 7 guys, everybody. So if you have 5 people in the vulture team, and they have 30 terrorists taken down in 2 minutes, and if you look at it for 6 times about it, it's repeating itself. You don't have to see this, and also if it takes longer and longer, then the fascination of the scientific element, which was there at the beginning, the searching for the virus cure, which was very well done, is lost, and they had to invent other reasons for the world apocalyptic scenario. But nevertheless, it is a drain of your soul, because you don't take part in the real fight. You don't have those friends as your real friends. They are actors, and they are on the screen, so they are twice distance from phenomenal reality. First, they stage it, they play the phenomenal reality, and as I've said, it is necessary, because the real sailors and the real anti-terrorist unit fighters are certainly much more flattened. Their soul expression capability is much more flattened, because they have it every day. And the actors that are not connected to this reality, they can play it, if they are good actors. And there are some ideological intentions behind it, like showing the couple who has a child on the ship, and he is one of the hero of the vulture team of the anti-terrorist unit, and she is the smart communication and girl, and they they fight like lions for America, and at the same time they have this child and they are, happy holding it, and so which sends an ideological message now. The strongest bond you have for your family must be sacrificed for the greater good, defending defending America and the ideals of the Constitution. If it was true, well, then the ideals of the Constitution would be really something great now. But as my professor in literary sciences at the University of Constance, Wolfgang Iser, which is not a unknown person. If you punch Wolfgang Iser into the Google, you will find, even in America, thousands of pages, because he was teaching in America also for many years. He told me, well, if you want, he told us during his literature theory lessons, if you want to know what does not function in the society, what is the lacking resource, then go to a supermarket and look at the shelf where the so-called bestsellers are sold. Write it down, the titles of the books, maybe even the leaflet, description, the short description of the subject of the book, and you have it. You have the collection of what is not there. Okay, so if you do it today, then you find the usual stuff. This is the adventure stories and the ghost stories and the detective stories and romance stories. Beep, beep. And then you can conclude, well, this does not happen in reality. That's why it is put into the art as a necessary fiction for the human race to go on, at least in the evening, in front of the screen or with the book. And then recently we have titles like, I Will Make It, and some spiritual journey books now. The monk in the Ferrari and stuff like that. So again, we can say that the emotions that a reader of a book, of an adventure book or a love book or a mystery book has, what is their quality? Well, they are certainly deeper and more close to the real emotions than emotions that you have when you watch a movie. Why? Because the movie does not give you space, doesn't give space for your soul field to expand. If you read a book and you have an emotional scene, your memory is working. Maybe you have experienced something similar. Your imagination is working. And you can always, stop reading and ponder and let this world take you away. This imagination grow to associations. That's why we talk about the inner world of a novel. It is a phenomenal world, a fictitious world, but nevertheless a continuous world with some jumps in it if the chapters, jump over several years in the biography of the hero, for instance. Whereas in cinema or in the movie and video, you are, absolutely taken, by the scene. That's why it's better we have these computers, we have this on the hard disk, if possible, and we stop it or rewind and say, what is going on here? So in reading a book, the primordial image, which is calling you, which is pulling you, may be real because it comes from your memory and from your real experience. Whereas in the film, it just goes so fast that mostly it is simply the surface and the dynamism and the color and the shape of the exteriors of this adventurous action, countryside, landscape, boats, airplanes, mountains, and the surface image of those actors. That's why actors must be attractive, handsome, because this is somehow kind of hitting the basic instinct of the human being, that beauty and power and beautiful nature and action, fast action, is a kind of essence of the heroic lifestyle now. So even these images are fake, they are shadows, they fascinate you in the moment of their perception, but they do not remain unless you are a young person and you fall really in love with the hero, like I did with Winnetou and Old Shatterhand. Winnetou and Old Shatterhand were real for me. I mean, I loved them when I was 8, 9 years old, and I really, saw them everywhere and behaved like them. And I didn't want to know anything about the actor, which was luck. I didn't get to know. So I always hate these post commentaries like the making of Lord of the Rings, when they dissect it all and the fantasy and the dream is destroyed by showing how it was made. I'll never do that. If you want to have a full life, and if you don't want to destroy your childhood heroes, never look into the making of Winnetou, okay? So in the childhood, they can have a real archetypal pulling force, because your soul is clean and free and open. They basically take the place of your parents if the parents are not so, perfect as Winnetou and Old Shatterhand and Shochi and Ribana. Or they take the place of the god, of a goddess, of some gods in a culture where there is no religion, no practiced religion. But this is then flattens when you get older, especially when you then understand the making of, no? And then you have to find the real source of emotional experiences. That is, you have to go to those primordial images. That is, you have to go to real nature, real farming, real sport, real adventure, expeditions, and so on. Then you can have a full plate of it. Then comes the danger that the primordial image component of your emotion gets distorted by the cognitive function. When you stop experiencing, like fully, emotionally, spontaneously, and you start to plan and organize your adventure and your expedition. Or when the driving force becomes diluted by the ego. All delusion of both aspects of the emotion, that is the driving force, the lack of something which drives you, the desire for something, and the pull of those morphogenetic fields of the greater wholes of the biosphere, they are pulling you. Both these aspects can be diluted and weakened by the ego. The driving force will not be a kind of romantic desire and dreamy kind of hypnotic somnambulism which pulls you to the window of your beloved with devoted soul. And in old times the bards would play guitar and lute under the window of their beloved. Today she would call the police, disturbance, night disturbance, stalking, and she would, or maybe she would come out and with a smartphone and make photo of you. I put it on Instagram or Facebook. Say, look, girls, Peter is, playing lute for me. Ha ha. Okay, stupid. No. Technology again is a great danger. Great danger, technology. If you do not understand Heidegger about technology, his great essay, Das Wesen der Technik, the essence of technology, then you will be lost, because you will suppose that these technological gadgets are somehow intensifying your experience, which in reality they are flattening. They are flattening it down. And so the motivation for an expedition is not this obsession of the unknown, which is pulling you, calling you, the call of the wild, but it becomes like, you want to have more clicks on Facebook, and you document everything until you simply are more concerned with the filming and the storing and the processing for internet, and compare and watching the films of the others now do the same. And then, like, I was shocked now, there is a new meme, adventure meme, going on the bicycle with a girlfriend to Asia from Europe, and making films about it, how wonderful and beautiful and how erotic it is to be on the road. It is! Definitely. Everybody who was on a road like that, without filming it and really experiences it, it's fantastic. It's the great archetype of Jason and Medea, or the Argonauts. But if you see what they film, they film even the morning when they sleep, and they want to convey the beauty of peaceful waking up in the tent. Oh my God! Well, if you are a young boy or girl on the gymnasium or high school, okay, I can understand it. That you will be fascinated by it, and you will do something similar, which is good. But if you are an experienced philosopher and phenomenologist, and you have experienced it yourself, such expeditions, without ever making a comment on it, or just a little bit, or if you are making a comment, then you make it to a real artwork. You make a new mythology out of it. You overdo it or you reduce it, because as Nietzsche said, art is not an illusion. It is a condensation of life experience. It is more than life. Nah? So for Nietzsche, the art or the experience of art was the only kind of, what do we call it, Rechtfertigung of life. That is the only kind of justification of life is art. Because life itself was not a great, we don't know about Nietzsche. He is very double-minded, a double sword. He says opposite things, né? And I think he experienced nature very strongly. But he somehow adhered to the aesthetic theory, which is similar to Kant, that he is the author. He makes it. The fictitious experience of beauty is his doing. The doing of the human soul. That's why he admired nations like Hellas and Greek, who were extremely, let us say, extremely interpreting, extremely changing the brutal experience of life to a kind of heightened mythological artistic expression. We are not, on this ground, we do not agree with Nietzsche. This is the theory of the aesthetische Schein in German, the aesthetic illusion, aesthetic fictitious illusion, following Edmund Burke, the theoretician who said that the basis of art experience is the willing suspension of disbelief. You go to the cinema, you read a book, you watch a film, you read a poem, and you say, okay, for the time of this experience, I will believe that it is true. And Nietzsche is of the same way, and he would add that this is an anthropological necessity. If you don't do it, you will become decadent. You will dry out. You lose motivation for life. We say with Ludwig Klages and biocentric phenomenology that the inspiration that comes from nature is real, because nature has a soul. These are the primordial images, and we add that the beauty of nature is not our own doing. And we have another theory to support this. This is this Gaia Sophia theory of John Lamblage and other mystics, who would say that the essence of the embodiment of the goddess mother is beauty. Because, if a woman, female energy kind of cluster or cloud embodies into a planet and then take care of life on it, and this all organisms, all plants are part of her body, an adornment of her body. Let us say the body is huge. The planet is huge. The surface is a little compared with the massive volume inside. So this is the surface that the biosphere, metaphorically speaking, are the clothes of Mother Gaia. And he makes her clothes beautiful. And she then finally creates a human being that can admire this beauty. But these human beings are also part of her body and part of her soul. So in this way, she can, let us say, bathe and swim in emotional states of beauty, okay, that we have as human beings, as poets, bards, artists, wanderers, travelers, and so. And this, compared to the condition of the soul that the 200 sailors have on the last ship, is very different. Because if you look at the amount of concentration and fast language and coded language and action they are, using every day to manage this ship, and especially in war situations, then you see there is little time for passivity and dreaming, of opening of the soul field and letting it expand and being drawn to the beauty of sunset. And so even though it's a work of art, and so the artists try to find such moments, but that's why they need actors to do it, to represent it. If there would be actors that really experience it, like there's this one exceptional actor, what is his name? He played Last Mohican. He played also in the film about the Russian invasion to my homeland, Czech Republic, a novel by a famous writer, Milan Kundera, the uneasiness of being, or in Czech, nesnesitelná lehkost bytí, the unbearable lightness of being. Dylan is, I think, his name. I don't know. But his approach is he becomes the role. He lives for a year at least like he was the person he's going to embody. He somehow tries to relive the soul of this Roman novel figure or historical figure. Well, he may be an exception, and he may be also not easy, because if you make it several times, then you don't know who you are. If you successfully change your soul, then you cannot get away of it from those morphogenetic fields, or from nature, or from other people, or from historical places. The soul of the place is pulling you, and if you do it successfully, you cannot simply leave without feeling a terrible loss. But in the usual situation, actors who depend on income from playing as much as they can, they do not reach the depth of such a feeling that the primordial images of the area in which they play would merge with their individual souls. The feeling would be then shallow. That's why we can distinguish between emotions that are deep, that is, there is a lot of primordial images pulling you and enveloping you, and emotions that are shallow, that are basically only driven by the driving force of the human instinct. You want that. Okay. There is not, the counterpart of it is not so strong. The primordial image does not call you. It's an egoistic emotion. Because these called human instincts are always touched by the ego. They are not the driving force of the body, only as with the animals, animal instincts. Okay, I hope I have explained this large part of biocentric phenomenology, which concerns the quality of emotion and how is it connected with the quality of body perception, and how it is connected with the elementary world, which also has elementary souls, no? And they are drawing us, they are pulling us to themselves, because they are, as far as the largeness of the soul field, much bigger. And what it means to lose this, if we, due to the rise of technology of mimetic art and representation, we lose ourselves in the so-called shadows that are reproductions, that are not true primordial images calling us. It started with photography and continues with film and will continue with 3D media. Yeah? Danger, danger, danger. Because it is condensed, it is fast, it is appealing to the basic, let us say, sexual drives and survival drives into human beings, or the war games, no? And hero games, but it is a fake. It does not connect to the real source of life, and it drains your soul. Better get a bicycle and a guitar and go to the nearby mountains or to the nearby lake, go around, take a block to draw a picture of your beloved, and they play guitar and imagine her as she's coming to you, as I did for many years in my young days. And they really came, and they really went, because they could not follow then my mystical and philosophical interest that arose, how it is, what is really happening. And when you really understand what is going on, then you lose also for some time the spontaneity. That is the price that the mystic, who is at the same time philosopher, has to pay. And then he can rise to the understanding, and that he can put away the understanding and dive even more deeply into the elementary and emotional world, because he does not have a doubt, which we had in the young days. We thought we were crazy, or we thought we were mistaken. No more. That's why after these days of watching The Last Ship, I have at least, no, this is time, I have 3 hours in the morning of this kind of compensatory, dreamy, bardic state, in which I philosophically, I hope that it is understandable, philosophically explain what I experience.